Why do people stay back in their toxic relationships? Why do members of cults defend the very roots that are harming them and actively making their life harder? Today, we are talking about a strange scientific truth that the more you sacrifice your time, energy, and emotions on something, it is harder, much harder, to walk away from it. Let's start with the costly signaling theory. This idea comes from evolutionary biology and anthropology. It talks about how people and sometimes animals engage in expensive, risk taking behavior that is hard to fake. Not because they are practical, but because it sends a very strong signal to others. It is like a peacock's feather, right? It's heavy, it's huge, and very inconvenient for survival. But it shows others that the bird was able to survive to adulthood even with that kind of a disadvantage, which is attractive to essentially their mates. Humans do this too in relationships, in communities, and even in religion. If you are able to show that you're able to pay a high cost for something, it shows the people that you are really committed. And here's the thing, genuine sacrifice is very hard to fake. That's why in relationships, sometimes people chase others who are not fully committed. Someone who can be with anyone but chooses you. That sends a powerful message that you must be special. That validation is very intoxicating, but it can also lead to maladaptive behavior, like staying involved with a person who openly rejects commitment or getting involved with a person who is already in a committed relationship. Deep down, you might want stability, but your brain is so hooked to the signal of being chosen against all odds, it overrides that need for stability. Now, religions and tight knit communities also take advantage of this, but they take this one step further. Anthropologist Robert Sosis studied such communities which often required such costly behavior. For example, strict rules, special type of clothing, and intense lifestyle changes. And he noticed something very interesting. That is, these kind of communities lasted longer than more looser and casual groups. Why? Because those demands act as a filter. They weed out the free riders, people who take benefits of the group without contributing much to it. So the people who stayed back are people who proved their loyalty by making costly sacrifices. But there's a dark side to this. This is exactly the same reason why it makes it even more harder for people to leave cults. The harder you work to prove in yourself, which is usually cults do demand a lot of that. They usually ask that you submit an intense amount of money, cut yourself off from family, endure humiliation, undergo some ritualistic behavior. Now you have invested a lot of time, money, energy, and made actions that showed your sincerity by offering up genuine sacrifices. It makes it twice or thrice as difficult to leave that situation now. This leads to a very powerful concept in economics, which is called the sunken cost fallacy. The sunken cost fallacy states that the more time, energy, and resources that you have invested in something, the harder it is to leave it, even though you can actively see that that is failing. This is why you can see a lot of business owners investing into projects that are sinking and bankrupting them just because they've already invested so much in it. And now, if they step away from it, it just proves that all of that was for nothing. Now, if you take this on an emotional level, now walking away from something like this is admitting that you have been wrong all along. And for most people, that is very hard to do. That's why most of the time people spend decades defending their bad relationship or destructive groups. They've simply paid way too much already, and they can't bear to think that all of that was for waste. So, costly signaling can keep a community together, but it also can trap people inside of that. So, The more we give, the harder it is for us to leave. And that's simply human nature. So the question is, are you staying in it because you actually enjoy it, or is it is actually beneficial to you, or are you just staying there because you have invested way too much? So if you found this breakdown useful, subscribe, like, share, all that jazz, and follow me to learn more about relationships, community, and the invisible strings that you are being pulled by. I'll see you soon.